It was Napa, 2017. 30-foot flames surrounded our house like a wall. My husband yelled, "Pack a bag for the girls. I'll load them in the car." I looked over my shoulder at them, praying it wasn't the last time I saw them. I packed a bag for the girls, jumped in the car, and we escaped the flames. We'd been pinching ourselves every morning while we drank our coffee and watched the hot air balloons rise out of the Napa Valley. It felt like we landed in a dream. Then in one night, the house was gone. My husband's job opportunity that had brought us to Napa dissolved soon afterwards. We returned to Austin, homeless, devastated, heartbroken, and starting over. But sometimes pain can be the greatest push that moves us towards our destiny. Standing in our new Austin home, I asked a question that changed everything ever since. What if a house could be a storyboard for your life? That question is why we are sitting here today. We built Casa Westward with that question in mind and the foundation for the home that we live in today. Not what style do we want, who are we becoming, and what do we want to come home to? Every choice was intentional. Every object a promise to our future selves. The longboard, the coral, the little wooden houses that sat on a shelf. Those objects became daily reminders of that Todos Santos beach house that we eventually owned. The thing that we had designed toward, we ended up living inside of it. Pain had pushed us towards our greatest destiny. That's intentional design. And that's exactly what we're building here, week by week, chapter by chapter, until the launch of my book on intentional design coming out in the fall of 2026. Let's dive in, shall we? Welcome back. I'm Natasha Antonioni, a luxury realtor and designer here in Austin, Texas with the Council Real Estate Group. We've been building something together. Rituals, symbols, connection, beauty, the energetics of a home. Today is chapter 8, and it's the one that asks, what happens when you're the one that's changed, but your home hasn't caught up with that change yet? What happens when you've outgrown the story that your home is telling you? Because that happens. Life shifts, and most homes don't move with us. They quietly hold us in place. When we built Casa Westward, we did something we'd never done before. We sat down and asked ourselves, who are we becoming? Not what style do we want, not what's trending. Who are we becoming? And what does that person need to walk into every day? We dove in, then wrote it out. We dreamed together. We created boards, vision boards, design boards, not for who we were, but for who we were aspiring to be. That question, what if your home could be a storyboard for your life, is what chapter 8 is built around. And I want to ask it to you today. When was the last time your home asked you, who are you becoming? We did, and it changed everything. One of the most powerful design transformations I witnessed didn't involve a renovation. It involved one decision to paint a wall. I worked with a recently divorced executive. Brilliantly accomplished. Every wall was beige. Tasteful, inoffensive, completely invisible. And every morning she walked through that house and felt invisible too. We changed one thing first. We painted the walls of her bedroom into a jewel-toned, saturated color, rich and bold, and completely unapologetically hers. She told me that she cried afterwards the first day that she woke up in that room. Not from sadness, from relief, from recognition. That color said, I'm here. I'm actually more here than I've ever been. One intentional choice began her next chapter. As a luxury realtor and designer here in Austin, I see this constantly. Not just after a divorce, it might be a career pivot point. It might be new children in a home. It might be after the children leave. The home either reflects who she's becoming or quietly keeps pulling her back. In chapter 8, I call this process future casting, and it has 3 steps. The first one is the gap audit. Walk through your home and ask yourself, does this home reflect who I am or who I'm becoming? Not who I was 5 years ago, not who my family or my partner or my decorator expected me to be. Who I am right now. Where is the gap between that person and what you're living in? The second is designing for what's next, the very next version of you. If you're stepping into leadership at work, does your home or your office represent a leader? If you're prioritizing your health, does your kitchen reflect that? If your children are growing into teenagers, has your home adapted for that? The third is releasing what's over. This is the hardest one. The art that belonged to a version of you that no longer exists. The furniture from a relationship that ended. The color palette that was chosen at that time because that's who you were. Growth requires letting go. And sometimes the most powerful design decision is letting go rather than adding something new. In my home, this plays out in one of the most practical places, the mudroom. We designed it initially for 2 young daughters. Chaos management mostly. Scattered shoes, backpacks, a daily morning tornado. As our girls grew, we realized that space was no longer serving those needs. Our rhythms had changed. The mudroom that worked when they were little wasn't working when they were teenagers. So we evolved it. Clothes storage for their sports equipment, a dedicated shelf for keys, water bottles, the things that mark the new season of their life. And what's coming next that I'm really excited about is a nook of family photos. So when you walk in that home, it's a simple reminder that love lives here. Your homework this week, do the gap audit. Walk through your home with one question. Does this home represent who I'm becoming? You don't have to change anything yet. Just notice where the answer is no. New chapter next week, Chapter 9, Integrating Work and Play. How to design a home that holds both your ambition and your joy. New videos every week until the launch of my book on intentional design in the fall of 2026. Subscribe so you don't miss a chapter, and tell me in the comments, which room in your home is telling a story about a version of you that no longer exists?